The scream was the kind no parent ever forgets. My 7-year-old son, Ethan, clutched his arm, tears streaming down his face, while HOA Karen stood there with that smug, twisted grin that had haunted our neighborhood for years. She had actually struck him. My blood ran cold. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the icy fire of rage that was building inside me. A fire so strong I could barely contain it. The neighbors peeked from their blinds, whispering like nervous birds. Nobody came out, nobody helped, but I could see the shock in their eyes. Karen barked something about rules and property lines. Her voice shrill like nails on a chalkboard. She thought she owned this street. She thought her HOA badge gave her power. But what she didn't know was this. She had just picked a fight with the wrong parent. And I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to scream. No, I was going to make sure she never smiled that smug smile again. Karen wasn't new to drama. She had spent years patrolling our street as if it were her personal kingdom. She fined people for leaving trash cans out a few minutes too long. She screamed at kids for drawing chalk flowers on the sidewalk. She even threatened to tow cars for parking too close to her driveway, even though they weren't. Most of us ignored her because dealing with her was like poking a wasp's nest. I tried too. I stayed quiet, kept my head down. But everything changed that afternoon. Ethan was just riding his scooter, laughing, carefree the way a child should be. He wasn't hurting anyone. Then Karen stormed out of her house, yelling that he was scratching her concrete. She shoved him before anyone could react. He hit the ground hard, his small frame crumpling, his scooter skidding across the pavement. The sound of his cry cut straight through me. That was the moment the mask dropped. This wasn't about HOA rules. This wasn't about property. This was about control, ego, and cruelty. And that was the moment I decided her reign of terror was about to end. The HOA board tried to brush it off. It's a misunderstanding. One of them muttered when I reported it. Misunderstanding? My kid had bruises on his arm and scratches on his cheek. I had witnesses. I had photos. I had zero intention of letting this slide. Karen, meanwhile, paraded around like a queen. She strutted up and down the block, clutching her HOA rulebook like it was a royal decree. She even had the audacity to hand me a violation notice the very next day. Her note said my son's behavior was a nuisance. Maybe you should teach your brat some respect, she sneered when I confronted her. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just about Ethan. It was about everyone she had bullied. Parents had been fined. Seniors had been threatened. Families had been embarrassed. And nobody spoke up, because fear kept them silent. But silence wasn't an option anymore. Not for me. I started digging. If Karen wanted war, I was ready. And what I found would tear down her empire brick by brick. It turned out Karen wasn't even a legitimate HOA president. The so-called election she bragged about? Fake. The fines she dished out? Completely unenforceable. Even worse, she had been siphoning HOA funds into her personal account for years. Every neighbor's hard-earned money, stolen. I filed an official complaint with the county. Then I called the police. The next HOA meeting was packed. Neighbors who usually stayed home showed up, whispering with curiosity. The air was thick with tension. Karen stormed in late, clutching her papers, ready to lecture us all like misbehaving children. But this time was different. I stood up, calm and confident. I slid a stack of financial records across the table. Every eye in the room turned to me. Dead silence followed. Karen's face drained of color, her hands trembling as she reached for the papers. And then the police walked in. "Ma'am, we need to talk," the officer said. Karen's eyes widened. For once, her mouth stayed shut. The room erupted like a volcano. Gasps, murmurs. A few neighbors even clapped. Karen tried to protest, her voice cracking. She screamed about personal attacks, waving her hands wildly. But the officer's handcuffs spoke louder than her shrill voice. The same woman who fined kids for sidewalk chalk was now being escorted out for fraud and assault. The smug queen of our neighborhood was nothing more than a criminal caught red-handed. Ethan sat in the back, safe in his mother's arms, watching the whole thing unfold. His wide eyes filled with relief, maybe even a little awe. For the first time in months, he wasn't scared. And me? I'll never forget Karen's face. Shock, shame, pure humiliation. The kind of look that says, you thought you were untouchable, but now the whole world knows who you really are. The empire she had built on fear and arrogance crumbled in a single night. And everyone, every single neighbor, witnessed it. Life after Karen was different. The neighborhood felt lighter, freer. Kids played outside without glancing over their shoulders. Parents chatted at the sidewalk without worrying about fines. For the first time in years, the street felt alive. Ethan's bruises faded, but the memory of that day lingered. He asked me once, as I tucked him into bed, "Dad, is she coming back?" I smiled, brushed his hair back, and whispered, "No, son, she's gone for good." The truth is, bullies thrive when people stay silent. Karen thought she was untouchable because nobody dared stand against her. But when one person steps up, the entire game changes. Like, share and subscribe to QZ Stories for next same stories.